my children and my wife. Thank my lucky stars to be living here today, 'cause the flag still stands for freedom and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget.
Healthcare is not necessarily a right. It's not in and of itself a right to have health care. Things that are rights are things that you are born with, and the law cannot take away from you. You cannot lose rights. Rights are liberty. It's the ability to pursue happiness. This is what our founders talked about. They talked about those things in terms of rights. Healthcare didn't always look as we know it today. It wasn't always employer-based. There's a number of problems that have sprung out, and a lot of them come from what the government has regulated the system. A lot of this has come from the government creating a problem that didn't previously exist a great number of years ago. And now what we're seeing is that we have not just President Obama, but a very, very progressive movement coming in and saying, well, the key is that government's going to fix this all for you, so don't worry about it yourselves. Government will go ahead and take care of this fix. My question to government is, can you please name something that you've done well in the last 100 years? We'll give them that. If I can recall that Jimmy Carter, he may have invited the idea in that we're going to rid ourselves of dependence on energy and the government's going to do it, so we're going to create the Department of Energy. That worked out really well for us. It's doing great. It's amazing. And you know what? Let's just go ahead and create the Department of Education, because our schools aren't good enough and we're going to increase test scores, and the government needs to get involved in this because we're really good at that too, so hence the Department of Education is created. It's worked out really well for us. I don't know why you'd do something like that. Our test scores are up. American kids are competing all around the world. It's worked out wonderfully for us. No sarcasm. We're saying, and many of you are saying out here, is let's try the viable solutions first. Why would we reinvent the entire system and take that slippery slope that could potentially lead to single payer, which we all know would the slippery slope that then leads to more aggressive wealth redistribution. It's going to lead to that if one step goes to the next, to the next. Let's stop it now with free market solutions. This is something that we're all capable of. There's no reason not to. So just a little statement for any of you when you're getting in arguments at work or you're talking to your neighbors or anything. They're going to talk to you that this is you're against someone and you don't want them to have health care and you don't want them to have anything else, and that you're evil and you don't care about people, and you're going to be told all those kinds of things. If there's one thing that I'm taking away from this, and I address this as liberty is really at stake here, and that is this quote, freedom to choose. We want to give people the freedom to make their own choices, to make their own options. I'm fine with more options coming into the marketplace. What I'm not fine with is government option coming in and actually flipping the scales so that in all reality it becomes the only option. And then that slippery slope begins. So why can we not just think freedom to choose, I'm okay with. You want an option, I completely agree with you. I have no problem with that whatsoever. But what we're not okay with is tipping the balance of the free market to be so skewed in the direction of government that it ruins everything that we know about our economy and everything that we know about freedom and choice, and it leads down to a very destructive road that none of us
We should have time to make our opinion known, and we should have time to make our voice heard. But instead they attack us for being Americans and exercising our First Amendment rights to go out and say what we think. Okay, they attack Fox News. You may have heard about this. The Obama administration's going after Fox News, right? Okay, you know why? Okay, it's because the New York Times and the Washington Post, actually admitted that, maybe we should be paying more attention to Fox News and talk radio because they keep scooping us on stuff. That little scandal that mainstream media wasn't so interested in reporting on, where you had a couple conservative journalists go into Acorn offices dressed as a prostitute, go in and ask for money, and they're getting advice and assistance. And the rest of the media didn't think that was newsworthy. Come on now. Anybody in here listen to Glenn Beck? He's the one among those breaking the story. Okay? Van Jones would still be in the Obama administration if it wasn't for Glenn Beck bringing it to the light of day. We have been dealing with little infringements on our liberty for years and years. And I'll give you an example. My youngest son is 5 years old, and he goes to an all-day Montessori kindergarten and daycare. All right? And I got in trouble, all right, for sending certain things in his lunch. All right. You see, there's these Department of Agriculture regulations about what constitutes a good school lunch. All right. So you have to have at least one serving of fruit or vegetables. You have to have one serving of dairy. You have to have one serving of meat and one serving of bread. If you don't have that, it's not a complete lunch. And if they're not taking care of that, they can lose some of their accreditations. All right, well, one day I got in trouble, and my son was prevented from eating part of his lunch, okay, because I thought that sugar-free chocolate pudding was a dairy item. Okay, so you have the government telling them you're going to lose your accreditation if I can't give the right food for my son. Okay, that is government stepping into my family. All right, and I'll tell you, I got news for him. You know what? It's my life.
You know, a week or so ago, the attention of a nation was focused on a 6-year-old boy who was thought to be in a runaway flying saucer-like weather balloon. It was kind of like one of President Obama's campaign promises. You know, lofty and shiny at first, but found to be nothing but hot air and empty after crashing to the ground. Politicians and their special interest friends threaten to increase health care insurance costs, increase the deficit, and increase the federal government's control over your medical health care decisions. And that's one reason why the Tea Party movement is so important. You are helping to educate your fellow Americans, the fellow American people, about the truth, about what's actually taking place in Washington. For that, I applaud and thank you, and I encourage you to remain vigilant in your efforts. Of course, the Washington establishment and their allies in the mainstream press said that you were just the fox-watching political fringe, a temporary bump in the road. Well, they know better now. Those who support the big government health care takeover, or Obamacare, or Pelosi care, whatever you want to call it, say that conservatives, or Republicans, or Tea Partiers, or 9/12ers, or whatever you want to call us, have no ideas, no solutions, no positive plans for reforming health care. That's just not true. We do support reforms that would increase choice and provide American families greater access to affordable, quality health care options. For example, we support providing business owners with better opportunities to provide coverage to their employees by allowing association health plans, which would permit small and medium-sized businesses to band together to purchase health insurance and ultimately result in lower rates to purchase coverage for their employees. That's a common sense reform. We should also allow individuals and businesses to purchase health insurance across state lines, which would provide more choices and cheaper rates for people. And all over America, this movement that you all know about because you're here today and you feel it and you breathe it and you believe in it, it's happening all over this country. And we will take this country back. The left-wing agenda that's been in place now for almost a year now, they can do a lot of damage. Some of this stuff's going to be hard to reverse. Ronald Reagan once said, "There's nothing more permanent than a temporary government program." And if we conservatives do take the Congress back next year, and I think there's a darn good chance that we will, we're going to have a lot of work to do.